Hey guys, my name is Dr. Sharnael, Wolverton-Sehon, and I'm very honored to be able to speak with you today about Gary Young, who is a awesome man and a dear friend and a huge inspiration to so many of us in the world. I choose to do this without getting emotional. It's still rough to talk about personally for me, but I understand you guys are getting together, and there are a lot of people who didn't personally know him, and I was very fortunate to be able to not only know him, but spend a great deal of time with him over the last few years and travel with him. And so I choose for you guys to be able to understand the essence of who he is and to be able to carry that. Gary, the first time I met him was in Paducah, and he was doing a meeting there, and I mean, he's strikingly energetic and just full of love. And I was there with Dr. David Stewart and a few other people, Dr. Marcella Von Harding and some friends of mine. And excuse me, this is emotional, but one of the things that I was so impressed about is, he's just seemingly a normal guy when you're standing there talking to him, but when he got up and started speaking about health and the oils and chemistry, the passion that came through was tangible. You could literally feel it. And he went on and on and on, and there were different speakers, but there was something really different when he would speak. It was from his heart, and he's brilliant. I mean, the things that he just knew about, all the chemical constituents of every little thing and how that worked with your body inside and out. And he had slides. I mean, this is way before all the compliance things started happening a few years ago. This is 10 years ago. And so we were allowed to say the truth, and openly we were allowed to say the truth. So, sitting underneath him in those days especially were amazing, because it was like I was in university just learning all this stuff, just being able to hear all the things. And but what impressed me even more was after it was over, I think there's about maybe 400 people there, and they all kind of like swarmed to talk to him. And when it was over, he sat there and answered all these questions, and people were coming to him telling him about different things going on with their health, and he would just be so present to offer help for each and every person. And finally, I think it had been like an hour or so had gone by, and he was supposed to be leaving, and they kept trying to like leave him, get him to leave to catch his plane. And he finally was like, just get me a mic, and I'm just going to answer your questions publicly, because there's so many people who still have questions, and if everyone can hear the questions and the answers, then we can help that many more people all at once, instead of just me talking and yelling, over all the crowd. And anyway, he stayed like 2 hours over. He missed his plane. He did not care. He had been going all day, and that was like my first time to see. And I mean, we cried all the way home. We drove home and we just cried. There was something really tangible about being in his presence and being in the biofield of who he is, not just listening to the resonance of his voice and hearing his heart, but being in his presence was just it activated something in me. The second time that I was with him, I had won a cruise, and I didn't even know that I won, but then I was told that I won this cruise, and I go on the cruise, and it was a Sunday night. It was the first night we were supposed to be, doing this week of stuff. And back then, when we would go do any kind of cruise or things, from a contest, we were always being taught. It was always training. He had such a passion to teach. And here it was Sunday night, and I think there's probably like 300-400 people again. We're sitting there, and he basically, got up and introduced himself and said, that he wanted to start off the cruise on the right foot, and he had realized, he had all this stuff prepared to speak that night, but that he wanted to honor his father, daddy father, because it was the Sabbath. And he said that he felt like it was something that, instead of teaching what he had planned, that he was going to teach something about generational curses and how to shift generational curses through apologetics with essential oils and what have you, because he thought it needed to be more like something to honor God, which everything he always did honored God. But he pulled out his Bible, and he told everybody in the audience that everyone needed to have one of those, and that he encouraged everyone because that's where he got all his instructions. He talked a lot about over the years. Sorry. I was impressed. A few people got up and left, and everyone else was like, wow, this is awesome. We're about to have church, And what's funny, I say that, he wasn't churchy at all. He was never religious. He never made anyone feel less than, whether they were in church or in any other belief system. He just loved people. Love is his religion, just like God is love. He still embodies love. It's just a different way, When I went to the Silver Retreat, which wasn't much longer after that, he did the same thing. People were coming to him after he spoke, and we were all outside at this picnic table, and he sat at this picnic table, and I had my book there. I was waiting for him to sign, he was signing books. And one after one person come up, and he would just pray for them and pray for them and pray for them and hug them and cry with them and listen to what was going on. And again, I was just so impressed by the level of love that he carried and walked in. And of course, my background was ministry at the time. I'd been an itinerant minister for years, and I started seeing, a bigger picture here, because of course I believe in prayers and miracles and loving on people. But what we were seeing is there would be all these miracles, but then people would go back to their lifestyle. And what Gary was doing was teaching, people about God and about health and how to make better choices so we could stick around, and how to honor the temple and honor the body, which is, awesome. And he inspired me so much that I actually went back to school. I had my undergraduate in wellness and kinesiology, and then I went to seminary, and I always thought I would go finish my doctorate in divinity or some sort of theology and religious education or something, and instead I went a different route. I went and got my biblical naturopathic doctorate, so I could teach people the way he did, and I could love people the way he did and the way he does. And there's probably 5 or 6 people on the earth, or who have walked the earth, that have had such an effect on me in my life. And he's definitely one of them. He was not just someone who talked about a lot of things, but he lived it. And he was very helpful in my life personally, not just with me changing my entire career, and having not just these churches and conferences that had been a part of over the years, but basically he gave me the opportunity to have the whole world instead of these little buildings, because there's so many people who require healing, and many of them won't go to a church, but they'll come to you. They'll come to me. They came to Gary, and we get to help them, and we get to love on them, and we get to show them how to make better choices so they can be around and do their purpose and be here for their kids and teach their kids these things. I mean, this is my DNA. This is your DNA. This is the DNA that Gary walked in. And I ended up traveling with him quite a bit, learning quite a bit. I went to Greece and Oman and Turkey and France a few times, and Canada and Hawaii, and we were on the border of Yemen at times, and Ecuador, France. I said that New Zealand, Australia, several places in Europe. I've been to his home in Ecuador, stayed there with him, which at the time I ended up finding out I was super sick, and he saved my life. And I stayed at the clinic, and they did a lot of things there that you can't do in the States that kept me on the planet. And he's done that for me twice. And, he was always the same loving person behind the scenes in his kitchen, cooking for all of us or hanging out. I mean, there were times, one time we were in Ecuador, we were having breakfast, and it was just two of us, and Mary and Gary, and John was there, and there was a phone call that Frances had broke her back jumping on a trampoline, and he immediately stopped everything and said that he demanded to talk to the doctor. And we all got together, and he called us all together to pray. We started praying, and then he left and went to the hospital she was at to deal with that. There were many, many times when he prayed, and here he is, so brilliant and all these things, and different blends that he would get, that God would give him in the night. At 2:11, he would talk about how he would keep a notebook, and I encourage you to do this. He talked about journaling and the importance of that, and he would talk about putting a notebook next to your bed with the expectation that God would talk to us. And he always was, he'd have these great things that would come at 2:11, and God would come talk to him and meet him or give him dreams, and he would get up and write it down. And like one time we were in Ecuador, and a big piece of machinery had broken, and he was so stressed about because he didn't want to raise the prices of all the oils for everybody. And he said, you know what? He looked at all of us and he said, "This is not my problem." He said, "God is my boss, and this is his company, and he's gonna see this through, and he's gonna tell me what to do because this is his company. So I'm putting all this on him." And the next morning he woke up and he was so excited. He had a recipe or ingredients of different parts and pieces that he had from an old refrigerator and some different things to fix this thing, because he had called multiple places all over the world to see about getting this thing, and it was like going to be $25,000, and it was like $8,000 to even ship it there, and it was going to be several months before it could be there, and it's kind of caused a delay. And here he just, God gives him all the pieces and instructions on what to do to get this thing working, and it was up and running. He fixed it. And it's different blends like Hope and Melissa, and Hope and Faith, and different ones that had came to him for specific people for the purpose of their healing, whether it was like a suicidal thing or a trauma thing. He'd get these ideas from the Lord, and he was open to it. And see, he would teach us to be open to that and to listen. And if we went sometimes and asked him, "What about this? What about this?" He'd say, "Well, what does your heart say? What is Father telling you?" And it taught me a lot on going inside and hearing and trusting the prophetic even more in me, or my intuitive side. And I had always loved the prophetic and walked in that in my ministry since I was a little kid, even before the ministry. But here, this was a marriage of healing and health with using your intuitive guide within us, that voice within us. And so, yeah, what is Gary to me? I mean, he was there for my kids. He was there with going through some hard stuff in my marriage. There was times he'd call and check on us, whether there was health or marriage or whatever. He had a few sit-downs with us. I remember one time we were all on the bus, and he got up. We had a long drive. I think we were in France, and he literally got on the microphone and talked to everybody about love and marriages and God for 4 hours. And we all took notes, and I wish that I had all of this on recording, because it was amazing, because he is amazing. And his love for Mary and his honor and respect for her and her love for him is such a model for all of us too. Just the way they danced together, they worked together. They literally danced a lot and danced together. Oh man. But danced in an energetic way too, and intellect, and just the way they worked together and helped each other and supported one another and loved their kids. That was just another model, for me to see. So what I'm saying is, what does this mean to all of us? And what does it mean now that he's gone from being in his earth suit here? Now that he's gone, he's still here, and he's still speaking to us, and he is very much a part of our lives, even in a bigger way. But we have to understand that within each bottle that we have is the essence of his DNA and his dreams, which is really God's dreams, because God's all about love and healing. And he did a great job of carrying that, and we get to carry that. When we do our classes, when we're helping our communities and our friends, we get the opportunity to come at it with a motivation of love and bringing people to wholeness and to healing. And, our heart is the most electric part of our body. It has the highest currency. And everything we talk about and think about and feel comes out in that biofield that's around us, 15, 20 inches that they carry and we walk around in. And there's code out here. There's definitely code. And essential oils have intelligence, and they have memory, and they understand intention. They're alive. It's the blood of the plant. And the plants are really smart. And when we mix intentions and love and all the things within us with this alive, loving blood from a plant, then that just doesn't go in our body and our cells and change our epigenetics, but it actually goes into this biofield around us, and we can touch people with that. And every single person has a special signature, an electronic signature from the DNA that you carry, and that is all in the code of what is out here in our biocode. And Gary, his signature is in every bottle that we carry, and it's in all of us who are in Young Living, because we're part of what his vision was all about. And if you're open to it, we can make this so big, you guys. Whether he's here in the earth suit or whether he's just here in consciousness, he's here right now. If you listen, and you listen to your heart, and you connect with these oils and nature and all the things that carry code, we can shift the whole world, just a few of us. And so I encourage you guys to tap into that and to remember as in union, and, do the right thing, and keep policy and have integrity. The word integrity means to mind, body, and spirit, like to be integrated, to be whole, and to speak truth. And that's another thing, is Gary took us to Queen Sheba's remains, castles, and Job's tomb, and he took us through Turkey and through Ephesus and all the whole Paul's journey. And he just had such a passion for all of this stuff and integrating everything, mind, body, and spirit, and bringing that wholeness. So when we can do that, when we can be whole and we can share that and pass it on and help by loving people and being whole within us, first looking within ourselves and making sure about our intentions and our integrity, and doing everything on the inside possible to be love, then we can actually start touching other people and sharing that love with other people, and seeing things shift and making a difference. And I mean, one by one. And whatever stuff's going on TV or the news and all those things, Gary was so adamant about government and shifting. And the only reason why he ever wanted or chose for us to make a dent in having wealth or prosperity is because he wanted us to shift the government too. Because all of our voices matter, all of our votes matter, and we can change things, you guys. And I vote your victory in doing that. And again, I'm really appreciative of you guys getting together and what you're doing for this company, and Sarah, what you're doing for this company, and what you have already done, and what we can continue to do as we work together as one in unity for Gary and for God and for who all you represent, your families and what have you. And I hope we can connect. Again, I'm Dr. Sharnael, Wolverton-Sehon. I'm on YouTube, I'm on Instagram. I got tons of teachings on some of this stuff, and as compliant as possible. And I hope you guys have an awesome day. And again, sorry this is so late, and continue to vote my victory. My brother-in-law just passed, and so I wasn't even sure I was going to get this video out, but I love Gary so much that I just felt like I had to, and been oiling up and doing Inkshire Red and all the things to make sure I could get this video out. So I love you. I hope this is helpful for all of you. I hope you will pass the torch and keep on journeying on for a better, bigger picture, a higher call. Because if you're listening to this video, you are called. You get to be the one. And I know you can do it. All right, stay in touch. If this helped you in any way, please let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback and to connect with you and see you at convention for sure. Looking forward to seeing you guys soon. All right. All my love. Talk to you soon. Bye.